Episode 5 General Tom Thumb, The Little Giant of the Stage by Jared Larkham. You're listening to The Cavern, echoes of oddities, curiosities, and history, where true stories meet behind the curtain. In our last episode, we explored the lives of Cheng and Bunker, conjoined twins who defined science, family, and exploitation. But today, we turn to a man so small in stature, yet so colossal in legacy. He became one of the most famous entertainers in history. His name was Charles Stratton, but the world would come to know him as General Tom Thumb. Charles Stratton was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut in 1838. He was perfectly healthy, weighing just over 4 kilograms. For the first 9 months of his life, everything seemed ordinary. And then he simply stopped growing. At age 5, he was barely 2 feet tall, about the size of a toddler. Doctors were baffled. His parents were frightened. But his mind was sharper. And fate, well, it had plans. A quote from Charles's father. He was small, but lively, bright-eyed, always watching, end quote. In 1842, Charles' cousin told a friend who told another, who told P.T. Barnum. Barnum was always searching for something new, something wondrous. When he met young Charles, he didn't see a sick child. He saw a star. Barnum asked the Strattons if he could take Charles on tour. He would dress him in costumes, teach him jokes, songs, dance, and even gave him a title, General Tom Thumb. He was 5 years old, but told audiences he was 11. He wore soldier uniforms, acted out Napoleon, pretended to smoke cigarettes. He became the toast of New York, and soon of the world. In 1844, Barnum took Tom Thumb on a grand Europe tour. He met Queen Victoria, danced with the Prince of Wales, was sketched by artists, painted in oils, written about in papers of London to Paris. A quote from P.T. Barnum. No man ever commanded so much attention in so small a frame, end quote. Charles was clever. He could mimic opera singers, play the gentleman, or bring down a theatre in laughter. He wasn't a puppet, he was a performer, and he was very rich. Very, very rich. At one point, he said he was earning $150,000 a year, millions today. In 1864, Charles married Lavinia Warren, a fellow performer with dwarfism. The wedding was a national event. President Lincoln even received them at the White House, lavish, grand, over 2,000 guests. They toured together as Mr. and Mrs. Thumb. They were elegant, charming, and above all, human. They longed for children, but were unable to have any. It was a quiet sadness, but one they bore with grace. We are not curiosities, Lavinia once said. We are people with hearts, hopes, and lives, end quote. Despite his wealth, Charles knew hardship. When Barnum went bankrupt, it was Tom Thumb who helped bail him out. He invested wisely, bought a house, owned horses, a yacht, and was seen as a respectful gentleman in his community. He never let size define him. He once said, I may be small, but I have stood on stages taller than most men's dreams, end quote. In his final years, he grew ill. In 1883, he passed away from a stroke. He was 45 years old. Over 20,000 people attended his funeral. Tom Thumb was more than just a performer. He was one of America's first celebrities, a man whose fame stretched across oceans and whose story stretched far beyond the stage. He was loved, mocked, admired, watched, but above all, he lived. He lived in a time where people like him were often hidden away, but he stepped into a stage and charmed the spotlight. Not as a freak, not as a joke, but as a person. He showed the world dignity doesn't come in size, it comes in spirit. And when we speak of oddities, we must remember, behind every headline, behind every costume, behind every whispered story, there was a human being who chose to be seen. Thank you for visiting the Cavern. Until next time, mind the shadows, they have hearts too. Next episode, we turn the spotlight towards another misunderstood chapter in history, the story of the albino performers of Barnum's world. What was their life truly like behind the curtain?